The craziest 1v1 fights in history. Let's see what we got, bro. Let's see who's really throwing down.
1v1 fights in human history. Number 1, Jean de Carouge versus Jacques Legris.
Who are these guys?
We're gonna start off with one of the most brutal 1v1 fights in recorded history when jealousy turned best friends into mortal enemies who end up fighting to the death.
Damn!
It's the late 14th century in France, and two men
It's a
named
best
Jean
friend
de
scenario?
Carouge and Jacques Legris are squires serving under a local count in Lower Normandy. This is smack dab in the middle of the 100 Years' War, so Jean and Jacques often find themselves fighting side by side against the English. Their time together on the battlefield leads to a strong friendship. So strong, in fact, that when Jean's wife gives birth to his first son, he asks Jacques to become the child's godfather. So life is good for Jean.
That's crazy.
Things begin to sour when the count they've been serving under dies, and the position is inherited by a man named Pierre d'Alençon. Both Jean and Jacques, having been loyal subjects, are invited to join the new count's inner circle. Nice! But for some reason, he begins to heavily favor Jacques over Jean. The favoritism makes Jean insanely jealous, and this jealousy quickly destroys
It's a jealousy
their friendship.
thing!
On top of this, around the same time, Jean's wife and his young son fall ill and pass away.
No way!
Heartbroken and lost.
Oh,
and with
yeah,
no reason to stick
he's
around
going
in
through right
Normandy,
now.
Jean decides to get away from it all and goes off to England to fight in the 100 Years' War. Tales of his bravery make it back to France, and when he returns home, Jean is kind of a war hero. He meets and marries a beautiful young noble named Marguerite de Thibauville. Things are finally starting to look up again for our guy. But this marriage turns out to be the thing that ultimately ends the friendship between Jean and Jacques for good.
Don't tell me they had
the two former friends
affair.
haven't seen each other in years. But with Jean back in town planning to settle down again with his new wife, they both end up at a party celebrating the birth of a neighbor's son.
He better not
They
took
bump
your
into
little
each other
shorty.
and get to talking, and they kind of remember why they were such good friends long ago. I know, like, why are we even mad at each other anyway? Oh, by the way, this is my wife Marguerite.
You better not. No! It's over!
Right here.
Oh my gosh.
Jacques is immediately attracted to Marguerite.
Are we
and now
serious?
he's jealous of Jean. But she's the wife of his friend, who is kind of like, not his friend anymore, but is kind of his friend again.
So what should I do then?
What is he gonna do? Well,
You should
what
have slapped out
he's
your boy?
doing is actually pretty f***ed up. See, Jean needs to earn more money, so he decides to go off to fight the English
Don't tell
again.
me.
Only this time, his campaign is a complete failure.
Damn!
Against all
You
odds,
gonna run
he
out?
somehow survives, and for his bravery, he's knighted by the King of France, and he has to travel to Paris to collect his wages from the campaign. At the exact same time, Jean's mother has to go on a business trip. They all live together in a huge estate, by the way, and when she leaves, she takes all of the servants and guards with her, leaving Jean's new wife, Marguerite, all alone at home.
Don't tell
Jacques
me.
hears about
You
this
better
and goes
know.
to Jean's home.
You
He sends
better
one of his
know.
man-at-arms to knock on the door, and Marguerite, left without any servants or guards, opens the door herself. The soldier tells her that Jacques is here, and
I would
he's
phase you
desperately
too,
in
bro.
love with her, and needs to see
I would
her
phase
right
you
now.
too.
She refuses, but as she tries to close the door, Jacques forces his way in, and oh boy.
He didn't!
Let's just say he does the thing that rhymes with the word grapes. Violated. Marguerite is on the floor crying. And as he leaves, Jacques threatens her, saying if she tells anyone, she's dead. Jean returns home, and Marguerite tells him everything. He's furious and immediately files a criminal case against Jacques. But guess who the judge is? That D-bag Count Pierre, Jacques' new best friend.
If I was,
and the case is
if I was this G guy, I would have slapped everybody in the
Jean goes to
scene.
Paris to appeal the case to the King of France himself. He shows the people in Paris that Marguerite is now pregnant. I mean, come on.
She's pregnant now?
Oh
my gosh.
Common knowledge of the day says that it was impossible to get pregnant from, grapes. With no witnesses other than Marguerite and Jacques, the courts say that they have no way to determine who's telling the truth. So Jean demands a trial by combat.
How does she have no way? Bro, she's pregnant.
Two men
I don't
fight to
get
the
it.
death to see who's correct. If the
I'm
courts
not gonna
can't decide who's telling the truth,
Bro,
they'll
better
let
win.
God
Bro, right
decide
here
by
on the
shining
left.
fortune on one of them. Jacques
He
is
better
also
win.
pissed that his name
If
is
this
getting
guy wins,
dragged through
I'm
the
gonna be so
mud,
mad.
so he countersues Jean for defamation and agrees to the duel.
Let's
Now,
do it. Let's
by this
run
time
it.
in France,
Let's run
trial
it,
by
Faye.
combat was considered pretty barbaric and not something civilized people should be doing. But the king, he's actually super into the idea.
Let's run it.
Like, so much so that when there's a chance he might miss the fight, he pushes the whole event back to make sure he can be there.
No way. He's like, I'm gonna be
on
there.
December 29th, 1386, the king, along with a crowd of nobles and spectators,
This is
gather
a
at
crazy
the Abbey of
boxing
Saint
match.
Martin de Champs in Paris to witness these two former friends fight to the death. Marguerite is also there, dressed in black, as today may also be her funeral. If Jean loses, it will mean that God has decided she was lying and she would be burned at the stake as punishment. Before the bout begins, official orders from the king are read to the crowd. Throughout the event, no one is to say a word. If anyone does, they'll have a hand cut off as punishment. You can't have anyone putting curses on the combatants and clouding God's judgment after all.
No way.
Both men are dressed in full steel-plated armor. They carry into the arena the holy trinity of weapons: a lance, a battle axe, and a longsword, along with a long dagger. The battle will begin on horseback and continue until one man submits or dies. The two men mount their horses at opposite ends of the arena and are handed their lances. The trial of combat begins, and the two men charge towards each other and strike the shields of their opponent. Both reeling, they ready for a second pass, and this time, both men strike each other in the helmet. Their ears ringing, they charge again for a third pass, again striking each other's shields, splintering their lances in the process.
No, pick it up and go again!
They their horses and draw their battle axes and charge in for a fourth pass. And this time, Jacques swings his axe and cuts the neck of Jean's horse, killing it instantly. Jean tumbles to the ground. He scrambles back to his feet, turns and swings his axe, slicing the belly of Jacques' horse, throwing Jacques to the ground.
Get him out of there!
The two men draw their swords and charge at each other, swinging with evil intent. Jacques is the much larger man, and he quickly begins to gain the upper hand.
I don't give a damn!
He's battering Jean, who's struggling to defend against the powerful blows of his one-time friend. He can only withstand the beating for so long until Jacques finds an opening and stabs Jean in his thigh. The crowd gasps as this fight may soon be coming to an end, and Jacques steps back and looks up towards the spectators. With this small opening, Jean lunges at Jacques and drags him to the ground with his helmet. Lying flat on his back, Jacques cannot stand with his heavy armor weighing him down. Jean mounts him and begins viciously stabbing at his chest with his sword, but as hard as he tries, he cannot pierce the steel plating. He throws his sword to the side and takes out his dagger, and with its handle, he begins to smash at the lock that secures Jacques' faceplate. A final strike breaks the lock, and he rips off the helmet, revealing the face of his one-time best friend. Holding a knife to his throat, Jean demands that Jacques confess to his crimes. Jacques defiantly screams, "In the name of God and on the peril and damnation of my soul, I am innocent."
No way.
What? With this, Jean can stomach no more disrespect.
He said on God, he innocent. He put it on God, though.
Friend, killing him instantly. The crowd
he had to go, bro. He had to go.
And pages rush onto the field.
Come on now. Jean's You're about to die. Could you at least tell the truth?
And kneels in front of the king, who's like,
"Let's go."
That was fucking epic.
Let's go.
He gives Jean a prize of 1,000 francs, worth about $300,000
That's what we do. That's what we do, Jean. Let's go.
200 francs a month, which is around 60K in today's money. Jean then limps to his wife Marguerite, and together they ride in a caravan to the Notre Dame Cathedral to give thanks to God for the long-awaited justice. They then live happily ever after. For about 10 years, and then Jean goes off and dies in a crusade.
Damn.
Bro just couldn't retire. Number 2, Miyamoto Musashi versus Sasaki Kojiro. It's
we're taking it back to the east with it.
Go up against each other in their primes, but this is exactly what happened in this story when Miyamoto Musashi went up against the most skilled swordsman of his time, Sasaki Kojiro, in an epic duel to the death. The date is April 13th, 1612, and on the shore of a small island off the coast of southern Honshu called Ganryujima, a samurai is silently seething in anger as he watches the sun begin to fall in the afternoon sky. He's a tall, powerful man who towers over his disciples, and on his shoulder, he's carrying a giant 3-foot-long sword called a nodachi, a weapon so big, only someone his size could even dream of using it properly. His name is Sasaki Kojiro, a man many at the time considered to be the most skilled swordsman in all of Japan. Months ago, he was challenged to a duel by a ronin named Miyamoto Musashi, and he's impatiently awaiting for his arrival. Musashi is late, and Kojiro is taking it personally. The inconsiderate behavior goes completely against the code of the samurai. The sun continues to set, and finally, a whole 3 hours later, a small boat appears on the horizon, casually drifting in the distance. Musashi is finally here, and Kojiro impatiently rushes to meet him.
Hold on. That's not even fair, bro. This might be fraud tactics. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say for sure, but what if his tactic was to literally make him wait there until it got really, really dark to make him get tired? Then he wouldn't have enough energy to really throw hands. If that's the case, he's on fraud watch. I'm not gonna lie. If Miyamoto actually wins, he's on fraud watch. He's on fraud watch. I don't care what nobody say, bro. You can't be waiting until a guy gets tired. You have to go peak for peak. Top condition for top condition, bro, if you really a G.
Now, Musashi, unlike Kojudo, who is a proper by-the-book samurai, is kind of a weirdo. For one thing, he's super tall for the time, standing nearly 6 feet when most Japanese men of the era were only around 5 feet.
Damn!
His appearance is also very un-samurai-like. His face and clothing are dirty, he never bathes, and his hair is an uncombed mess.
Oh my gosh.
Despite all these oddities, Musashi is known throughout the land to be not only dangerous, but also an incredibly cunning warrior. By the age of 29, he had already fought and won 60 duels to the death,
60?
killing his first opponent at the age of 13, and he's currently wandering.
Hey, low-key, since he's like 6 foot, right? Could you say that he's cold, less so because of the fact that he's skilled, most of the fact because he had like a physical advantage? Because he's 6 foot and everyone else is 5 foot. That's a whole foot taller than everyone on the block. So most of the opponents are probably like a foot shorter than bro. That's a crazy disadvantage, you know what I'm trying to say? I feel like if... Maybe like let's say because I think Yasuke was a samurai, right? He was like 6'5". Yasuke 6'5" up against Miyamoto Musashi 6 foot. Who knows what went on there, bro? Would Yasuke have won? I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like the size difference matters, bro. The size difference definitely matters.
In Japan, seeking out and challenging the best swordsman he can find to test his skills with the katana. Musashi is well aware of Kojudo's immense talent and knows that this fight will be his greatest challenge to date. The winner today will undoubtedly be deemed the greatest swordsman in all of Japan.
Oh yeah.
Knowing the stakes, he's gone to great lengths to make sure he's given himself every possible advantage in this duel. Musashi nonchalantly steps off the boat looking as dirty and disheveled as ever. He sees Kojudo's face and smirks. Kojudo is fuming after waiting 3 hours for his arrival.
He definitely...
Musashi then reveals his chosen weapon for the duel, a crudely carved wooden sword that he had made out of a boat oar. Instead of showing up on time, he had spent the 3 hours carving this thing on the ride over to the island.
This guy better not win with a sword, bro.
He better not win. More.
If he wins, you're trash. I'm not gonna lie.
To facing him with his infamous two-sword style, and instead is planning to fight him with this? Without the standard bow to begin the duel, Kojudo begins yelling at Musashi, scolding him for being so late. This disrespect will not go unpunished.
Hey, if he's not tired, if this guy's not tired, but he's angry, that might be some tactics, but it might be W mind games right here. Reason being is because what if he came late on purpose so he could be so angry that he loses focus? And you know when you lose focus, you swing wildly, you're not as accurate. Then you're done. Like, it's easy for me to get you, bro.
And he unsheathes his sword and throws the scabbard to the ground, signaling this will be a duel to the death. Musashi casually comments, "You have already lost if you think you don't need your sheath anymore."
Rage bait.
And he lifts his wooden sword into a ready position.
Rage bait.
Kojudo, now fully blinded by rage, charges in using his signature technique called the swallow cut. Musashi barely dodges, and his headband is sliced off his head. He jumps away and positions himself with the setting sun at his back. The late afternoon sun reflecting off the water blinds Kojudo, and he squints to try to keep track of his opponent.
This is mind games!
Seeing this opening, Musashi heaves his wooden sword and with all his might strikes Kojudo with a blow to his head. Kojudo cannot defend himself properly, and the sound of his skull cracking echoes on the beach, leaving his disciples gasping in shock
with a wooden
as his
sword?
body falls lifelessly to the sand. The
He's an
greatest samurai
environmentalist.
duel in history.
He used all the mental games possible. He used it. W strategy, W all that, bro. He got him angry. He made him lose focus. He got him to look at the sun, have him glared so he couldn't see properly. The rage bait tactics. I can't even hate, bro. He cooked.
History is over in just one strike. Musashi, seeing Kojudo's disciples
him with a wooden
go
sword.
from shock to anger, quickly jumps back on his boat, and his oarsman brings him back to the main island with no celebration. Now, you may be saying, okay, that's pretty epic and
it's
all,
over.
But what was up with the boat oar? Well, that was actually part of Musashi's plan too.
I'm telling you.
He learned of Kojudo's giant odachi, and knowing he could not beat him with his standard katana, he carved his wooden sword to be 2 inches longer than Kojudo's weapon, taking away his greatest advantage. Musashi had carefully planned every aspect of the fight, from his late arrival, which he expected to upset Kojiro, positioning himself with the sun to his back to blind him, and his wooden sword giving him the reach he needed to strike safely at a distance. With this victory, he's proven that he was not only the greatest swordsman in all of Japan, but also one of the greatest tacticians as well. Number 3, Andrew Jackson versus Charles Dickinson. Here in the US, we have a history of electing unhinged psychopaths to the office of the president. And out of everyone who's ever been commander-in-chief, I think Andrew Jackson is probably the craziest person we've ever put in there. The guy allegedly participated in over 100 duels, and this story is probably the best example of why you don't ever want to get into a gunfight with a crazy person. Back in 1805, former Tennessee Senator Andrew Jackson is out at the racetracks betting big on his prize horse Truxton. He's supposed to go up against another horse named Plowboy, owned by this guy Joseph Irwin. The winning horse was to take home $2,000, big money for the time, and Jackson was confident his horse was going to win. But days before the race, Irwin's horse gets sick and can't run. The men get into a disagreement about how much money Jackson should get from this situation, and most likely, Jackson is being a complete asshole, as he was known to be. Irwin's son-in-law, Charles Dickinson, hears of this and steps in. Dickinson, like Jackson, has a huge ego and a hot temper, and it doesn't take long before the two start slinging insults at each other in private letters and out in public. Dickinson calls Jackson a worthless scoundrel in one letter. And later at the party, he goes on talking shit about Jackson's wife, saying Jackson is getting some guy's leftovers as his wife hadn't even divorced her first husband yet. That one really pisses off Jackson because, well, it was true. Dickinson pops off one last time, writing an article in the local newspaper calling Jackson a poltroon and a coward. Sick burns. And this one sends Jackson off the rails. 3 insults is just too much for him to handle, and he formally challenges Dickinson to a duel. Now, Dickinson is actually totally cool with this, because it's well known that he's an expert marksman with a pistol. Actually, probably one of the best shots in the state. So he accepts the challenge with full confidence he's gonna put that asshole Jackson down for good. Meanwhile, Jackson and his friend, knowing that Dickinson is a way better shot, try to come up with all kinds of harebrained schemes to increase Jackson's chances of winning.
Don't tell me about the cheat,
They come up with a plan of trying to get Dickinson to shoot first, because maybe they can rush him and he'll miss, and then Jackson would have all the time he needs to aim properly. This strategy did have the risk of Dickinson, not missing, and Jackson dying before he had a chance to shoot. But hey, this was the best they could come up with. And I told you already, Jackson was unhinged, to say the least. By this time, dueling was actually illegal in the state of Tennessee, so the men crossed the border.
They moved just to run the fade. They moved just to run the fade. I can't even hate it, bro. They went to a whole different thing just to run the fade, bro. He said, "I hate you. Let's die."
1806, Jackson and Dickinson, along with their seconds, made their way to a secluded spot in Adderville. The 2 men marched to their positions 24 feet apart with their pistols in hand. The duel begins, and Dickinson expertly points his pistol at Jackson, aiming for his chest. He pulls the trigger, and in a flash of gun smoke, sends a lead ball hurtling towards Jackson and does a direct hit inches from his heart. The former senator staggers back, clutching his chest. Blood seeps out from beneath his hands, staining his shirt. But Jackson does not fall.
What?
Dickinson lowers his pistol in disbelief. His aim was true, and that was surely a kill shot. Dueling rules stated that now he must stand still and allow Jackson to take his shot. He looks across the field and can't believe what he's seeing.
Yes, it stands still.
The injured Jackson, face white as a ghost, still clutching his chest with one hand, slowly raises his pistol and takes aim. Jackson pulls his trigger, and Dickinson winces, expecting an impact, but nothing happens. Jackson's gun has misfired. Now, dueling rules say that a misfire still counts as a shot, and the duel should have been over. But Jackson, he doesn't give a f*** about the rules and recocks.
Okay, this is just cheating. This just cheating, bro. This is cheating, bro. This just cheating, gang. So he hit a misfire, but he said, "Nah, bun with that, bro." Fuck! Dang, that is not fair. If we're playing by that, bro, I should have been shot you twice then. You're lucky I even allowed you to stand still.
Pistol and aims again. He pulls the trigger, and this time the shot rings out.
That's not fair.
Ball hits Dickinson square in the
He gave you the respect of standing still, and you want to shoot twice. How is that fair, gang?
Chest, and he falls to the ground. Though people try to save him, he bleeds out and passes away within 24 hours.
Damn.
Jackson's wound is examined by his doctors, and it's discovered that Dickinson's bullet has broken a few of his ribs and is so close to his heart it can't be removed safely. He recovers, but the bullet remains lodged in his chest for the rest of his life, causing him a lot of pain.
Damn.
Jackson's reputation took a major
these two always remember that, though.
Because, you know,
he cheated.
Murdered a guy in cold blood, but not enough to prevent him from becoming president in 1829, which just goes to show you can be a horrible person and still become president of the United States.
That's flipping insane. Flipping insane, bro. I'm not gonna lie. His cheating that should have lost. You telling me he said, "Bun that, I'ma shoot again"? Bro, play fair.